Rishab, good to see you. Thank you for making a bit of time to come and have a chat with me because I know you're super busy because you've got this trial starting, haven't you? So you're plenty to keep you occupied. So thank you for making a bit of time. I want to start the interview off by picking up something that you said to me when we spoke 2 or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was last. You said, I'm just checking we're a really oddball tech team. I mean, what makes you say that you and your people are oddballs, and why does that matter? I mean, just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, first off, Paul, great to see you. Thank you for having me on. I think what I said was, we're a super oddball med tech company. I mean, traditionally, when you hear med tech, right, you think huge company, a lot of people who have had quite the tenure in their areas, either clinical or in engineering,
Yeah.
a lot of regulatory experience, um, coming in and giving these long presentations filled with tons of amazing data. um, yeah, and applause from the entire room when they present. And then you see us, and we're like four people, two of us straight out of undergrad, one in residency program, so not even a fully trained physician yet, and the other guy is a medical director for his hospital, but still very young, just crossed the 30-year marker, so super young in their careers. Um, Walk in, and the entire room is just filled with these like 50, 60-year-old tenured CEOs. Nothing wrong with that, but you immediately your eyes will go to us and be like, what are these guys doing here? And you often get mistaken as like, hey, are they interns? Are they fellows? Are they like what are
Really?
these guys?
That must be
But
annoying.
no, I mean, it's understandable, but
Yeah.
I really think it is kind of our superpower. I hate to say it, because it gets people to come talk to us, right?
Right.
Um, and then the cooler thing is we can actually talk to them back. We can have a great
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Uh, we don't have that 50 years of inertia to move past.
Yeah. And the other thing that struck me is you're working on a brilliant idea. I mean, just for the people that haven't come across you and your business before, I mean, just tell people a little bit about it because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you. So we're Auvilabs. We're a team of four out of Chicago, Illinois, and we're building a super tiny, wearable, and flexible ultrasound device. The goal is to be able to put it on anywhere on your body, monitor blood flow non-invasively, as well as take pictures and do a bunch of other things that we're working on. Really looking to roll it out to some of the sickest people in the world first. So we're starting in some areas like dialysis, cancer, and trauma, and then building it up to there with the goal of eventually getting it out to everybody.
And I mean, where did the idea come from? Because it's a pretty cool setup that you've got. I mean, I was fascinated when we were talking it through. Where did the idea come from? Because it's not, I mean, it doesn't completely sort of obviously spring to mind what you've done. I mean, where did it come from? Just talk us through how I mean, how did the idea evolve, I suppose?
Yeah. So 2.5 years ago, my roommate and I, we were in one of our electrical engineering classes, still in our final year at undergrad, and we were sitting in class, and this doctor walks into the room, or I guess he was still a med student at the time. Richie walks into the room and says, "Hey guys, am at the university medical school, and there's this one problem that we have that a lot of vascular surgeons want to address. We have a certain patient population that doesn't get screened enough. Can we build a device to actually go screen them remotely?" And I remember looking at Satyansh, and I was like, "Yeah, this is what we should do." No idea why, but it just felt right in the moment. And so we both got up and just left class and chased them down in the hallway and said, "Hey guys, don't look for anybody else. Like, we're your guys."
Wow.
Um, and then one thing led to another. We spoke for like 2 hours in a coffee shop one day and realized that this is what we wanted to do. And then chain of thought, a lot of interactions, realized like, hey, let's take this incredible sensing technology, ultrasound, that's non-ionizing, right? You don't
Yeah.
even have to work with radiation, super abundant, very easy to build, and then cram it into this like tiny sticker that anybody can put on. Because
Yeah.
what we realized was, ultrasound is great, but it's super difficult to use right now. It requires certain certifications, years of training. Um, None of that, possible for a patient
And
who's just.
and just, I mean, just tell me about the remote bit because that's quite important in who will be using it, isn't it? The thing about people living remotely. I mean, just talk us through that because I thought that was a really significant sort of angle to this.
Yeah, definitely. So with one of our patient populations, specifically dialysis patients, at least in the United States, per capita, I believe there are more dialysis patients in rural communities than there are in urban communities.
Wow.
And those patients actually they don't have like a facility to care for their needs within 50 miles of where they live,
Right.
on average. And so, say that you're detecting something wrong in your access circuit, which is what you use to actually connect to that machine and get your treatment,
Yeah.
you're going to have to drive 2, 3 hours to a site to actually go in and get an ultrasound screening.
Right.
Uh, these people already have to go into dialysis clinics 3 times a week. Nobody wants to spend their off day driving 6 hours to go get
Sure.
checked. And one really powerful story that one of our dialysis partners shared with us was, the rural patients when they have these problems, they have to pay for airfare to actually go fly these patients into a facility to get their accesses checked. So there's a big need to just bring this
Wow.
diagnostic to
Wow.
their home.
And what you've done makes that super easy, doesn't it? I mean, just explain why it's super easy for people who haven't, who haven't seen it.
Yeah. So traditionally, when we think of ultrasound, it's like a single point, right?
Yeah.
And then it's a point, and then you move it around with your hands to find what you need, and you have to learn how to manipulate it, etc. And we're just thought, what if you take that one point and you make it many points and have some redundancy to go around and check, um, and then take that and put it in the form of a sticker. So our ultrasound looks like this. I'm gonna have to cover up the transducer part, but the
Yeah.
entire stick, it's a sticker. You can put it on. You just click start on your smartphone, and we're automatically able to find what we need to, and then take that measurement like volumetric blood flow, which is incredibly helpful for the physicians to figure out, hey, something going wrong, and do I need to bring them back and get it fixed before they end up in the emergency room?
I mean, that's extraordinary. And presumably, I mean, maybe I've got this wrong, but presumably this in time will generate lots of data that will then lead to other things, hopefully. I mean, just talk us through that.
Yeah, so this is kind of our years down the line goal is, but
Hmm.
if we're taking all this longitudinal ultrasound data, right, of how blood is flowing through a person's body over the course of days, weeks, months, hopefully years, ideally we should be able to build some kind of model to catch, is this fit, like, is what we're looking for going down weeks in advance. um, and the thing is this has just never been done before, right? In order for someone to have taken a longitudinal ultrasound scan in the past, you would have to have somebody physically sitting there with a probe against your skin
Yeah.
for days or weeks at a time. And so we're really excited at what this data can unlock in terms of that.
Yeah. I mean, presumably it will then enable you to predict before these, or identify when these things are likely to happen, which means you can then move to develop ways to prevent the problems. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the goal. And people are making so many great innovations in the intervention space. So
Yeah.
people are making better balloons to go in and fix problems. Imagine now we can pair those better interventions with faster diagnostics and what that can unlock for a patient.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an extraordinary idea, really. And so tell me about, I mean, how do you see the future of the company? I mean, I know you're at a relatively early stage, but just give us a flavor of the sort of opportunities that this kind of opens up because they're quite exciting. Mine.
Yeah, definitely. So we're starting with these three identified patient populations, and we've got like fantastic partners to help us build those. But the really, like, once we build these three out, turn this into something, turn this into a tool that a physician can just say, hey, I need to keep track of this patient's
Yeah,
carotid blood flow for X number of days, or I need to keep track of their blood flow going into the leg for a month. Get the stickers, put it on that patient, um, and know, you know, if something is going down weeks or months in advance.
yeah,
Um, and then even beyond that, is there a way we can even get this into everybody's home and turn it into kind of like an Apple Watch? But that's, super far ahead. Right now, we're focusing on the most, uh, the sickest patients that have the most urgent need for a device like ours.
yeah. But there's nothing wrong with a bit of ambition. Was it Bill Gates who said a computer on every desk when nobody
I
had a
just
computer.
heard that quote this morning, funny enough, on my walk to
Yeah,
work,
yeah.
and everyone thought he was crazy.
Yeah, that's right. But he, I mean, so I think a bit of ambitions. Well, I personally think a bit of ambition's a really good thing actually, because it's how people move forward. So I think it's great. Tell me about building a business in this space. I mean, so you decide that you're gonna fix this problem, which I think to a greater extent you've done. I mean, you haven't scaled it yet, but you've kind of fixed the problem, I think.
Well,
What happened
we
then? When
still,
you decide you want to do it, what happened then?
yeah. So first off, I would say we have not fixed the problem yet. We still have quite a bit of work to do to demonstrate that what we're building is going to be effective in patients.
Yeah,
But what we have done is we have showed that the technology is possible, right?
yeah.
We've done on a small cohort of healthy people, we have showed that we're able to accurately track blood flow compared with using our device compared to existing ultrasound. That itself is a huge technological breakthrough for our company. Um, but when it comes to how to build a medical device company like this, first off, I'm no expert. This is my first, but I really think it's a game of community. It's more than just bringing together great engineers or great doctors or great clinicians. You really need like kind of like this marriage between the clinical, the engineering, as well as all the other stuff like the payments, the reimbursements, the regulatory. And we've been super lucky to find mentors in that space to come in and help us along all those paths. So I think if you're trying to build a medical device company, you really just need to put together a community.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it must have been quite fun and quite entertaining to kind of get this up and running.
For sure, it's I would say it's it's very exciting, right? You speak to so many people and you hear so many different opinions. But I think if you can get everybody motivated and inspired to this like big goal of helping these patients in the end of the day, um, that is like the most rewarding thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to pick up the point you just made there about there being lots of different opinions. I mean, my experience of most businesses that I've been involved in is there's always a lot of noise. And one of the things I think is interesting is how you separate out the wheat from the chaff, if you like. I mean, how do you work out what you're going to focus on and what you're not going to focus on? I mean, how do you kind of cut through the noise?
It's really difficult. I mean, we have so many different opinions from so many places. I think the principle we set for ourselves is pick the one that makes the most sense on a gut feeling check and
Right.
then try it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So, not necessarily do we have to make the right decision every single time, but we should be able to test that decision very quickly and move on if it's not working. That's our philosophy. So, we definitely don't get every decision right, but at least we test it quickly to know that we need to go on to something else.
Yeah. And that, of course, gives you evidence to build on, doesn't it?
Evidence and experience, right? Like
Yeah.
we went through and did the test, which we should make us better at doing the next one,
Yeah.
which I think is way more important.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you use that word experience. I mean, my experience was that the first few years of building a business are they're great fun, but they're punctuated by sort of near-death experiences when things go horribly wrong. I mean, what's your take on the kind of ups and downs of building a business?
It is, yeah, it's exactly like you said, ups and downs. I think emotional regulation is something that everyone can get better at,
Mm.
but I think it's just part of the game, and it's just I think I've told myself at least a year ago that this is just part of the process and have fun. And it's quite the privilege, to even feel that near death experience because you're on this amazing journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, presumably you enjoy it.
I love it. It's weird, but yeah, it's the best. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing.
Yeah. Let me ask you about the kind of the process of building a little bit. One of the things that I've learned about business is that um, to stay competitive, you need to keep improving because customers' expectations change, the technology changes, you run up against problems, all the rest of it. How do you keep everyone? I know you've only got a relatively small team at the moment, but how do you keep everyone focused on that improvement process? Because it's got to work. You've got to keep that moving, if you see what I mean. That's always struck me as quite a difficult thing to do.
I think because our team is so small and everyone is so deeply passionate about the problems we're solving, um, the engineers love the technology. The clinicians obviously love like solving this problem for their patients. It hasn't really been a challenge for me to get people to continue innovating and to continue thinking about ways to do things better. Now, whether that might change as the company grows, I don't know. But at this point, I just think because we have such great people, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a privileged position to be in, and lots of CEOs do worry about that for obvious reasons. And would you say that is about finding the right people, i.e., the sort of skills and knowledge, or would you say it's about a kind of a commitment to the mission, if you like, or is it maybe a bit of both? I mean, what's your take on those issues? Because often you hear about both. People say, "Oh, it's all about the mission," and then other people say, "No, it's all about the skills and the knowledge." I mean, what's your take on those issues?
I think if you find the most talented engineer, but they're not passionate about the mission, you're still going to end up with not great results.
Yeah.
Um, but on the flip side, if you find an average person or maybe fresh out of school, and then they're absolutely in love with the problem and in love with the concept of what we're building, they will figure it out. Um, and I think it's up to us to give people. It's up to me to give my team, the space to go do that,
Mm.
the budget, the space to freely go and innovate on these areas that, in the end of the day, will pay dividends back.
Yeah, yeah. You've done a lot of the kind of heavy lifting. How do you see the future of the business? I mean, how do you see the next few? I mean, what would you say is the next stage, and how do you see things unfolding?
Yeah, so we've built we've built the technology. We've got some evidence to show that it's working well. Next step is to take it to the next bar. We need to give it to physicians, let them use it on their patients, and then most importantly, publish that data to show to the world that this device is producing data as good as we claim. And that's what we just kicked off at our first site, in a hospital at the University of Illinois Medical School, out in Champaign, Illinois, where 20 dialysis patients will come in, they'll use our device, we'll compare it to existing ultrasound, and we'll just compare how well we're doing. And then after that, we have a couple more pilots set up, as well as the entire FDA regulatory process. And then eventually, yes, we'll get to market and we can start selling these to people.
Yeah, I mean, it must be quite exciting moving into that stage where you're actually starting to interact with users. You know,
You know, we always interacted with users. I think it was
right.
we never built this and then waited. We always I think we tried to keep the physicians as in the loop, as much as possible. In fact, we started planning this pilot before this device was even built. We started planning this 2 years ago, and so we just happened to have finished the device now, and so now they can go and start using it.
Yeah, I think that's such an important lesson. I mean, so many people that I come across don't seem to want to talk to users or customers or clients, however you describe them. Whereas what you're describing is what I think is the best way to do things, and this is go and talk to them almost on day one and use that experience, that knowledge, that feedback, that thinking to kind of help you move forward. I mean, it seems to me I don't understand why people don't want to talk to users or customers, but you do see it a lot for some strange reason.
I think it's just comfort, and even we get. I say we talk to users all the time. We do, but there are definitely periods where we might not be talking to them as much, and I think it's purely just a comfort perspective.
Mm.
When no one is calling your invention bad, you feel better than if you go out and tell a clinician and they go, "This sucks."
Yeah,
And so I think it's getting people to overcome that fear of their whatever they're building being called bad.
yeah,
Um, that's what it takes to go in and keep this constant touch with these
yeah.
users.
It's that sort of fear of rejection.
Fear of rejection. Great way to put
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you see it with salespeople actually that do anything to avoid talking to customers because they don't want a customer to say, no, I'm not going to buy it.
Exactly.
And I understand why that is, depressing, discouraging for people. I get that, but you're absolutely right. You have to kind of overcome that, don't you? And I think there is a lot of pleasure actually getting useful feedback because it can move you forward.
Definitely. And you're when you do a startup, you're dedicating your life to this mission, the economic incentives aren't that great.
Yeah.
If you look at the grand scheme of things, you're much better off just going out and being an engineer than starting a startup. But do you really want to bet your whole life mission on you sitting in a lab alone and not talking to the world, or don't
Yeah.
you want to go test that theory as quickly as possible? That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah. And what did your friends and family say? Because it's, I mean, most startups fail, don't they? I mean, there's nothing new about that. I mean, what did your friends and family say when you said you wanted to do? Because this is not, I mean, it's also, it's not an easy area to be successful in. I mean, there's a lot involved in what you're doing. I mean, what did your friends and family think about you, kind of
Yeah,
jumping off the deep end?
my family has always been very supportive from day
Right.
one. I've had no issues with that. I guess I came from a privileged position of this was my first thing out of school. So I really didn't have that many responsibilities if this was
Right.
bottoms up. It's if it fails, I can go get a job. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Um, so they were very supportive from day one. And I think there's been a big shift in the last 5 years about the way people think about entrepreneurship. I think it's been way more glorified, if that's the right word. And so people see it in a way more positive light than maybe they had in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's definitely some truth in that. I think also, there's something quite exciting about having a go at building a business, which is different from just climbing up the greasy pole in a bigger firm or, becoming a more senior engineer or lawyer or whatever. There is something interesting about having a go at building something that appeals to a certain type of person, I think.
Definitely. I think it's having so much autonomy over what you build.
Mm,
And I think for me, the biggest thing about startups is knowing that like the harder I work, the better, like I will see that return instantly in my company. Whereas if you're at a big company, sometimes putting in more work doesn't necessarily see that come back to you.
no, no. And some people say that, I mean, some people I've spoken to think that being the CEO is a kind of quite a glamorous kind of gig. I mean, would you agree with that?
Strongly disagree. I would say the CEO has the least cool job of the entire team.
And what makes you say that? Because a lot of people won't think that about being a CEO.
You know, as an engineer personally, um, the things I love to do are talk to users and build cool technology. When you're the CEO, you have to deal with all the other mundane stuff like the accounting, the taxes, the fundraising, um, which some people enjoy. All the stuff that you really become. I feel like the CEO really quickly becomes that person who takes on those jobs that don't clearly go into
Mm,
anybody else's responsibility. So you end up taking in a lot. You become the public face of the company, and so you sometimes don't get to work on the super cool things that maybe um, your co-founders are building in the lab or doing in the hospital.
mm. And it also, the other thing about being a CEO is it takes quite a lot of commitment. I mean, where does that commitment come from with you?
Um, I guess. Can you elaborate on what you mean by commitment?
Well, I mean, it requires huge amounts of energy. It requires you, having to deal with rejection and failure. There's no guarantee at the end of it that it will be successful. And that's always struck me as to be able to deal with that, you've got to have a bit of a commitment to doing this. I mean, some people have said to me, I just wanted to prove somebody else wrong. They said I would never amount to anything, so I was going to prove them wrong. I mean, where does that commitment come from with you, would you say?
Yeah, that's a great question. First thing is I would say I had my own run with the medical system a couple years ago.
Right,
It was 4 years ago, and I was in the hospital. Quickly realized how much space there is for innovation in the area.
right.
I was hooked up to the machines. I saw personally what it feels like, and the physicians who you trust your life with. I mean, they're overwhelmed. There's so much going
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Um, Anything we can do to make the patient feel better, I know personally what that would feel like. And so, that's one thing, just knowing that I can give that hope to people. The other thing is, I feel like ever since I could remember, you know, I've always been doing things.
Right.
I've always just been constantly doing things, and started back in high school where I had this like incredible robotics team that I would work with,
Right.
and we would do competitive robotics, and we would do it every day, day in, day out.
Wow.
Doesn't matter if we're sick, tired. We'd wake up early in the morning to get our classes done. As soon as we got out at 3 p.m., from 3 to 12 at night, every single day, we'd be in the machine shop working on that robot. And I think that taught me like, hey, like this is super fun when you're doing it with like people you really like. These are like my
Yeah.
best friends now.
Yeah.
Um, but those long hours, they didn't feel like work to me. And
Yeah.
so that just carried on through college and other things. And now I'm just replicating what I did back in high school, essentially, now with my co-founders here. So it
Yeah.
doesn't feel different at
But
all.
what you're not saying is that it's not all about an Elon Musk size payout.
No, it's not. In fact, expect the opposite.
Yeah.
But I think if you do great stuff, you help a lot of people, it'll come.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to come back to the rejection thing. I mean, I imagine that you must have developed quite a thick skin because I mean, doing stuff that is very specialized, inevitably there are lots of setbacks and things that don't work and things that go wrong and things that you don't expect. I mean, would you say that has changed you?
Definitely. I mean, dealing with rejections, I think the most common, super common when you're a CEO, right? You're pitching people all day. You're talking to customers all day. If every single person said yes, you probably need to be worried about living in some kind of simulation or something, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they're not telling you the truth. But you get no's every day, and I think learning to accept it, learn from it, and then keep going, the most important skill you can have as a CEO.
Yeah. 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 And let me just ask about something that's sort of related to that crisis. I mean, my experience of being a CEO is that, I mean, there were periods, I mean, not all the time, but there were periods when I kind of went from putting out one fire to putting out another fire. How do you feel about having to deal with kind of, ongoing or inevitable crises that hit small businesses? I mean, what's your take about that, which is slightly different from rejection? I mean, it might be related to rejection, but the
Yeah.
kind of headaches that come with cash flow problems and those sorts of things.
I think number one thing to always look at with a startup, whether you're in crisis or not, and I think even matters more when you're in crisis, is just team morale, right? Like that's the first thing you should care about. If your team is happy and they're committed, um, you can get through anything. Right? It's really when your team starts to doubt whether or not what we're building is going to work, or when they start to check out because their energy is drained. That's when you need to worry. And so for me, I think, how can I keep my team as happy, excited, and motivated as possible to keep going? And I think as long as they're committed and they're happy, and we can deal with any crisis that hits our
And
company.
what do you do to keep that morale up? I mean, I take your point about morale, but what do you do to keep that, going in the right direction, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, like understand why everyone's doing what they're doing, and usually it's wanting to see an impact in the world, wanting to talk to patients,
Mm,
talk to customers, wanting to see what they're built, like want to see whatever they've built start working and feel that excitement of, hey, I built this.
mm,
So keep letting them do those things. Don't drown them in administrative work. Don't drown them in things that
mm.
might not be as relevant. As long as you keep that ratio up, people are going to continue being happy.
Yeah. And I guess that's the big challenge as you get bigger. And all
Definitely.
those sort of administrative things and organizational things, they kind of get in the way of doing what you've really come there to do. I mean, I guess that's the challenge you'll have to avoid when you're starting to scale, I guess.
Definitely. You'll have to ask me again in 2 or 3 years because
Yeah, well, I might do that. I might do that. So, somebody said to me that being a successful CEO is about learning to duck before somebody punches you in the face. I mean, what's your take on sort of I mean, what I'm talking about is being a CEO in a world that is changing so rapidly. I mean, AI, as a for instance, is changing the way we do all sorts of things at the moment. And some people have started out thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, and then all of a sudden they've discovered that's not going to work, and they're going to have to do it differently. And new approaches emerged. I mean, what's your sort of take on if you like, the volatility in the kind of tech world, because so many things are changing and it's such a fast pace. I mean, certainly compared to when I started in business.
Definitely. So a couple of things. First thing, volatility is the best thing a startup can ask for, in my opinion, because volatility means people are changing what they have to do. They're reevaluating their existing
Yeah,
systems, which gives you a space to go in and compete. If nothing is changing, then how are you going to convince people to even talk to you? You know, but now there's crises going on and people are realizing, hey, this is horrible. We need to find ways to solve this. They'll
yeah.
take our
So that,
volatility
sorry, let me
is
just
great.
pick it up. So what you're, just to clarify, what you're saying is that all that volatility creates opportunities for you to do interesting, exciting things. That's what you're basically saying. So it's not, you don't see that volatility as, if you like, a threat. You're seeing it as an opportunity because lots of business people say, oh, it's very difficult to make decisions if I haven't got certainty. You're saying something totally different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of our disease states we're working with, there's big payment changes going on right now. And as a result, they're kicking out every existing payer and making them refile all their admin work. What does that mean for us? All these people are going to be relooking at their patient populations
Yeah,
and going,
yeah,
hey, how do we treat them better? How do we, maybe there's a different way we can do things, gives us opportunity to jump in. If nothing changes, now you're going to have to, how are you even going to get in the room, you know,
yeah,
as a small company? So volatility is the best thing a startup can ask for. Um, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, no, that's such an interesting perspective on it because it's the opposite of what I hear from a lot of people. Let me also ask you about success and luck and how those things play out. I mean, I tend to speak to people that are on one side of that thing. There's some people say, "Oh no, it's all about what I did or my team did," and some people say, "Actually, I was successful because the timing was right and the technology is at the right level." And I mean, what's your take on sort of timing and the impact of that on success and how does luck sort of
yeah.
feature in that environment? Do you have a sort of a view on that?
You might have to ask me this again in 3 to 5 years because I think we're just 2% of the way there
Right.
to
Okay.
to the end. But up till now, I think one thing I've realized is there is certainly a large luck element of just some, like for example, with a lot of our clinical partners, we happen to be in the right room presenting, and
Right.
they had happened to buy their tickets to come watch us present. So, if that hadn't happened, we might have not met them. But on the
Yeah.
flip side, we took the initiative to go there and tell the world what we were building. So I guess it's a bit of both.
Yeah. 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 It's such an interesting thing that some people say you can make your own luck, which is sort of what you're saying. But of course, luck is something by definition you can't actually control. So it's really about saying what you're saying is you've got to get out there and talk to people to come back to what we were talking about earlier on, not just patients, but other stakeholders. Yeah.
Definitely. In fact, I think we've gone to so many conferences, events, presentations as a company.
Yeah.
I can't even count how many over the past 2 years. And out of those, I would say only 4 presentations made the entire company, like, or not presentations, but like conferences or some kind of interaction. Only 4 of those trips actually resulted in everything we have to this day. Everything else was a dud.
Wow. So if you hadn't gone to those, you really would be stuffed, wouldn't you?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. But of course, you have to kiss a lot of frogs, if you like, to coin the phrase that they're using here. I mean, you've been out to lots of conferences, not knowing which ones will pay off.
Exactly. Um, I would say don't spray and pray, but if you have a gut feeling that there are people there that you would like to speak to, be it
Yeah.
some innovative medical institution, you should go try it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a really useful piece of advice actually, because a lot of people aren't sure about where they should go. I think your point there about if there's going to be people there that you think, might be relevant or interested or, helpful, that's the thing to focus on is who's going to be there rather than what's the title of the event. I think that's quite a useful sort of take on it. The other thing that a lot of CEOs don't want to talk about, a lot of them do, but is when things go horribly wrong. I mean, what's your take on failure and what sort of things is it? What have you learned from failing?
I'd say it's all part of the process. We I would say there's nothing that we've failed and haven't tried again, and maybe not the next time, but at some point got it to work. I think it's just trying again. Like, for example, with fundraising, right? I was terrible at fundraising like 2 years ago.
Right.
I think, because you're growing up, you like watch Shark Tank, you watch all these like you watch all these business plan competitions, and it's very like they think you think it's like some kind of sales pitch. You get on the stage, you talk about these financials, these
And
things.
it's not, is it?
It's not at all like that. It has nothing to do. In fact, I think with all of our investors, majority of them didn't even need to see the deck, like our pitch deck. Majority of it was maybe they come into our office and they put on the ultrasound and see how cool it is for themselves, right?
Mm.
Or we just build a relationship. They see that over the course of 6 to 8 months, we publish these like monthly updates. They see us get punched in the face and get back up and go do it better. Um, and that's what matters. It's the relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And to come back to that thing about being punched in the face, it's. I mean, I think as Muhammad Ali said, it's not getting knocked down that's the problem. It's not getting up that's the problem.
Definitely. It's
Yeah.
just, you got to get up. I think, what was it? The Y Combinator always says, just don't die, I think is what their phrase
Is that
is.
what they say? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I heard that 2 years ago when I was in San Francisco, and I liked it. It's true. Just don't
Yeah.
die.
Yeah. So that's quite a good way of putting it, actually. Um, a couple of final questions before we wind up. If you had a rookie CEO come to you for a bit of
I'm a
advice.
rookie CEO, so I don't
Well,
know
okay,
how.
somebody who's a few years behind you, so and even a rookie. I mean,
Yeah,
what advice would you offer to people thinking about embarking on something like you've done?
I would say just have fun, and as long as you're having fun and you're focusing on what can I do to make my business better every day,
Mm.
uh, you'll find your way. I think no matter what advice you give, they're still going to ignore it and
Right. And what makes
get
you say
punched in
that?
the
Is that
face.
because you ignored advice?
Yeah, I ignored everything people said to me, and I got punched in the face. And then I realized, oh, maybe they said it for the right reason. But like, how am I supposed to know back in the day?
Yeah.
A lot of people tell you things, and you think, hey, maybe times have changed, maybe it's no longer a real problem. But then you'll hit it, and then more importantly, you'll understand why it's a problem
Yeah.
and why it happened to you. And I think that experience, you cannot substitute it for someone just telling you not to do
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in my case, I was never any good at listening to people anyway.
it.
I've had lots of advice, most of which I have ignored, and that has not necessarily benefited me actually, because I've had some quite good advice that I've ignored. So, the older I get, the more stupid I realise I was. But there we go. Um,
What I realized about advice is it's not necessarily about making an instant decision,
no,
but it's getting the advice and then seeing it in the real world and then understanding the advice more deeply. So I think it's good to still get advice. And I still try to listen to all my advisors who are like smarter and more experienced in this area in many ways than I am. But sometimes I just, you have to fail yourself to see it.
yeah. I think the other thing for me is I like to go and ask for advice much more than I did when I was younger. I mean, when I was younger, I just used to carry on like a bull in a china shop, you know. But as I've got older, I've been a bit more savvy about asking people what they think I should do before I go and do it, rather than thinking afterwards, what should I have done? You know, and that being a bit more proactive is particularly if you really value people and you think, yeah, they'll give me good advice, you can approach them, which I think is that's been one of the changes in my world.
100%. And also, you never know when you're going to need advice. So I think if you have really great people, you should just keep them close.
Yeah. Surround yourself with good people and keep them close. I mean, what a great piece of advice. Rishab, thank you for making a bit of time because I know you're super busy at the moment. I thank you for making a bit of time. I mean, it's a genius proposition. I mean, I really think it will help a lot of people, you know, and I hope you and your team feel really good about, you know, all the things that you've had to work through to do it. Because if you can help those people in the way that you're planning to, I mean, I think it's really valuable thing that you're doing. So thanks for coming and coming and talking about it and sharing the story. Like I said, I mean, it's brilliant, really, and I really hope that the next, I know you've got a few more phases to kind of go through, but I hope the next steps, if you like, are successful.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I appreciate you having me on. And, team's super excited. So hopefully you'll hear some good things in a couple of years.
Look forward to it. See you soon, Risha.
See you, Paul.
Bye bye.